way as possible so that all votes in this place and in the country count the same.
Lloyd Russell-Moyle.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When I went to the table office a few weeks ago to pick up this bill, I picked up the wrong one, and I was reading it and thinking, this is a particularly good bill. This seems very reasonable and sensible. And then I realised it was actually a private member's bill from a number of members opposite. So there are suggestions on what would be better. And they are laid here in Parliament, and it's such a shame that the government doesn't take more heed of their own members. But let's talk about the content that we have in front of us today. What is, of course, in a number? Because the reality is a percentage doesn't really matter. We're talking about building blocks that are numbers, not percentages. You don't say in this ward there is 5% of the population. You say in this ward there are 3,000 voters. That's what we're working on. So let's talk about practicalities. In the average metropolitan borough or London borough, the average ward size is 9,800 people, 10,000 people. A 5% variance at the moment excludes all of those borough wards. All of them. They are excluded. Of course, it doesn't affect nice shire counties, where, of course, the people opposite predominate from, because their size is the average size is only 3,000. So, of course, you're able to build coherent communities in those places more easily, and it is harder, and you divide and rule communities in urban areas with this 5% variance. If you had a 7.5% variance, of course you avoid that, because then the variance is 10,000. The vast majority of our urban wards would be able to be included in whole, and there would be very little problem. Now, I think there is actually an argument to review how we do boundary proposals in their holistic nature from the bottom to top. To actually say that the boundary commissions for local governments should be creating wards that are of smaller sizes so they fit in to the shape of what we want the variance to be. I think there's an argument for that, so you get the building blocks right. But the government haven't come forward with a proposal like that. The government have rejected the idea that you would talk about local government reviews at the same time as, of course, parliamentary government reviews. So that is off the table. And if that is off the table, we need to accommodate ourselves for the situation that we have at the moment. No, I think we're very tight of time, I'm afraid. Of course, the committee that is the predecessor committee to the committee I sit on suggested 10% with a 15% allowance in exceptional circumstances. That was cross-party agreed in 2015. This is a far more modest proposal. Of course, the Boundary Commission should actually aim to be dead on. No one is saying that they should be not aim to be dead on. But where that is impossible, we should allow them flexibility. We should allow, if we want to use the judicial example, the judge to use their expertise rather than tying their hands behind their back. And we of course know that if the rules are written incorrectly, then you get a gerrymandered outcome. It's not the fault of the commissioners, it's not the fault of the judges, although it's not a judicial process, it's a quasi-judicial process. It is the fault of how the rules are written. And that is why it's so important that it comes back here, because it is not us that vote here in Parliament. Our votes are for the people. And therefore, removing the oversight of this place is removing the oversight of the people. Finally, I want to quickly touch on how you look at the numbers. The 1917 boundary review, which was the first major boundary review in this country, used the census data. And why did it use the census data? Because the census, the 1911 census, which I've been looking at recently because I've been doing my ancestry, scarily I'm related to the Eustaces, I must inform the Minister for DEFRA on that account, but that used the building block of the census, because the census was both the census and the electoral roll in 1911. The split of that has meant that we no longer have automated electoral roll, and if you either had automated electoral roll or used the census, we would also have fairer constituencies as well, and something that I'm disappointed the government haven't included. Thank you.
Alex Davis-Jones.
Diolch, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I